This episode originally aired on my solo podcast, Maximize Your Day, but it's too powerful not to bring back. Now, as part of Married to the Hustle, the show I co host with my husband and business partner, Alex, we're expanding the conversation around mindset, boundaries, and what it really takes to thrive in life and business. The value hasn't changed, but the perspective has really deepened. And honestly, some of these insights hit even harder now. So let's get right into it. Enjoy the listen. Welcome so much to the Maximize Your Day podcast, Sharissa. I'm so excited to be able to connect with you today. Tell my audience a little bit about you.
Oh, first of all, thank you for having me on your podcast. I'm so excited to get into what we're going to be discussing today. So I'm Sharissa Sebastian, and my primary focus is basically I'm a coach, but my focus as a coach is in leadership coaching. So leadership and executive coaching for corporate leaders. But of course, my experience or like my journey into coaching is, a whole other story. So I'm sure we'll get into that. But my background, like I'm a mom, business owner, and all of the other things in addition to the focus on coaching. So that is a little bit about who I am and what I do.
Awesome. And, first of all, I love that because this shows the audience and all of our listeners that you are just like all of us, right? We're all raising a family. We're all working jobs or building a business or doing something. So this is to show you that you're not any different, but you also take what you've learned and what you've been called to do to be able to share that with the world. So I'm really excited for our conversation today. Now, what led you to coaching?
Okay, so the Cliff Notes version to answer that question because it was a long journey. But basically, I was in a corporate career, and the majority of my time spent in that career was about, I think it was 13 plus years total. But what I was doing is I was in tech leadership. And towards the end of my corporate career, I started to get really burnt out. And what I realized in going through that whole experience of burnout, at first, it felt like a never ending cycle of just being at a job that was not the right fit, which I didn't even realize at the time because that's all I knew. But what I did know was that I was exhausted every day. I was working long hours. I was trying to, do way too much. I was a single mom at the time, trying to raise my daughter, trying to figure out how to juggle everything. And I was just completely done. And so I just, I got to the point where it was like, okay, I'm at the end of my rope. I can't do this anymore, but I don't know where else to go. So through a lot of like prayer and personal discovery and trying to figure that out, I actually found a coach. And it was through that whole coaching experience that led me to coaching myself. And so that is the short version of that story. So I went from like a corporate leadership or technology leadership position, transitioned into coaching, graduating from coaching school from IPEC. And then from there, I just kind of launched into my business. And so that was the catalyst, was that just burning out, feeling like not aligned with what I was doing, just feeling completely unhappy, to be honest, and just not being able to really focus on the things that are most important. So being a mom, like doing things that were massive to me outside of work, I was just not able to. I didn't have the energy. I didn't have anything left to give. And so that's what started me into this journey of like, okay, who am I? What am I supposed to be doing here in this, in this world? And how do I transition out?
Yeah. And, that's so powerful that you say that, because I think a lot of us, when we're in the corporate space, we tend to climb that corporate ladder. And then when we get to a certain level or a certain position, we start to feel like it's just not what it was all hyped to be. And then you start to feel that lack of purpose and, and that burnout and overwhelm and wanting to do all the things. But we don't realize that when we come home, what we're giving our families and our children is what's left of us. So it's so cool that we have actually got to connect through the IPEC journey, because as I've been going through my IPEC certification this year as well, it's really opened up my eyes to a lot of things where I get to serve women, where I choose to serve them and walk in my purpose and follow that passion without having to deal with the corporate space hanging over my head and feeling that overwhelm. You did say something very, very important, though, that I'd like to touch on, Sharissa. And it was that you didn't realize at the time that you just were not in the right position for you. It just wasn't the right fit for you. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, sure. So that was, I think a lot of it was as a result of the fact that I had been in that space pretty much all my, professional life. My entire adult life was in the technology space. That's all I knew. That's what I thought that's where I thought I was going to retire from eventually. And so all I saw was that corporate ladder in front of me. So for me at that point in time, that was my only option. But then when I started to look around and when I started to really pause and examine where I was and what I was experiencing, and I started to look and see, okay, what's that next step? Because for me, I was on this, constant journey of, okay, what's next? I'm not exactly happy here, but I'm going to go seek what's next. I'm going to keep moving forward. And hopefully the next thing, like I was just chasing this dangling carrot the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
I started to look around and I was like, okay, what are my options? And I started to look at, like the leaders that I was reporting to and their jobs and what they were experiencing. And I was like, I I don't want that. I don't see how that's going to give me what I'm looking for. So I was constantly seeking like fulfillment and purpose and all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
But just after a long period of time, just finally realized that what I was chasing is just not aligned with who I am and what I'm here to do and like the value and my, personal mission and purpose, which I didn't even know at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that. I was just like, I guess you keep your job, you move on, you keep going and the corporate ladder. But I never thought about it in terms of your career lining up with who you are as a person and your mission, your purpose, all of those kinds of things. So it was only and going through that coaching experience at that time, all of that started to unfold for me.
Right. And that's so powerful because I've had this conversation with other entrepreneurs that they know when they know that it's time to make that shift. They just know there's a peace and a sense of confidence that kind of comes to you. And it could be, through coaching, it could be through prayer. I'm a woman of faith, so I believe wholeheartedly that there's power in prayer. I'd love to know, what was that feeling for you that you just knew that it was the right time? Because here's the thing, before you answer that question, Sharissa, here's the thing. There's so many people out there that are going through exactly the same thing that we've experienced. And it's climbing that corporate ladder, spending so many years, that hunger for success, but there's a part that's missing. And I love how IPEC really drills down into understanding who that you have inside. So how did you know? What did that feel like for you? What was that feeling inside?
And I love that you brought up like being a woman of faith, because that really was it for me. I spent a lot of time at that point. I was just basically on my knees. I was like, I don't have the answers. Like, I can't figure this out on my own. I'm like, God, you've got to help me because I don't know what else to do. I'm by myself. I didn't really have a support system at the time. None of my, family was close to me or anything. So I was a single mom all by myself. And I was like, I have no clue. Like, I'm so lost. And so it was in that process of trust and surrender. And I had to really just say, okay, I'm open to whatever it is that you have to show me and whatever you tell me that I need to be doing. That is the way I'm going to go. And that moment was the shift for me, because the minute I released that pressure on myself, trying to figure it out by myself, and I just said, okay, I'm going to trust that it's going to fall into place and I'm going to be able to, figure this out, or I'm going to know at some point that where I'm supposed to go. Everything started to just unfold for me. So I found this coach and I started to have those conversations. And then I had so many aha moments in those sessions. And then I had people that came and were speaking to me about coaching. Oh, have you considered this? And at the time I was like, what? That's completely new, out of the realm of possibility to me. But it was those little seeds that began being planted. And the more I leaned into prayer and my faith at that point, the more I got confirmation along the way, like those baby steps, like, okay, here, you're on the right path. Keep going, keep going. And then the other thing that you mentioned that's also so powerful in this process is that peace that I had. I never had peace in my career up to that point. And I didn't even realize that. I was constantly asking for the next thing. But when I landed on coaching and I started to get a little more clarity on what that is, and I started to get really excited. And it was actually the very first weekend of IPEC is when I had that big aha. I was like, oh my gosh, this is the thing I've been missing. And I didn't know I was missing it until I actually experienced that whole process, right, of what coaching is and how it can really change people's lives. And it changed my life first. And then I was able to, then figure out, okay, how can I use the tools and everything that I know to be able to impact other people. And that's where that shift started to happen. But I had to come to the point of surrender, and I had to trust that I can't push this, like I can't push forward myself. I've got to trust and surrender and just trust that I'm going to be guided in that direction. And the moment I did that, that's when things started to happen for me. And it wasn't overnight, but there was like, more and more hope and more like pieces of the puzzle that started to unfold as I did that. Yeah. I 100% my faith that pulled me through.
I love that. I have goosebumps just in hearing your story. Now, I know that there is some TEDx stuff in your background. Tell us more about that.
Sure. So yeah, I did a TED Talk, I think it was a couple of years ago now, on the pursuit of happiness in the workplace. So just to kind of give some background on how I ended up even speaking on that particular topic. As I went through my coaching journey and, I had to pick, okay, what is it that I want to focus on and who do I want to serve and how do I want to do that? I landed on leadership, because one of the things I really loved is being able to help leaders have that impact in the world, because they have such an incredible opportunity and level of influence. to be able to help other people and to create that ripple effect. And that's something that I've always been passionate about, just helping leaders to really help others and support other people's, their own growth, first of all, and then also to be able to support others. And so that's how I've, evolved my coaching into focusing more on leadership. And so when I started to think about, okay, how do I want to get this message? There's so much that I have to share in this area. I've been studying it for so long. And I started to ask myself questions like, okay, I have this message. How do I test it out? How do I know that what I have to share is going to be valuable to other people? And I actually started with writing. So I started writing articles. I started to first post articles on LinkedIn, just kind of things that I had learned that I wanted to share with people. And I started to test it out that way to say, okay, is this getting traction? What's resonating with people? What's not? And so it's through that process of writing that I actually wrote an article called, The Pursuit of Happiness in the Workplace. And it started to really it started to get so much traction on LinkedIn that I decided to say, okay, what I did at that point was I was like, okay, how do I get this to a bigger audience? And so I submitted it to a couple of different publications, including Forbes, and it ended up getting published in Forbes. So that's when it really started to snowball. And I was like, oh my goodness, there's something to this. Like, people are really interested in this particular topic. And that's when I pitched it to a couple of TEDx locations. And that's how I ended up speaking on that particular topic. So I tested it out first. And then I presented it and said, okay, I've already done my due diligence as far as saying, like, people are interested in this topic. This is something that they need. They want to hear more about. So I think it would be a good, a good fit to be able to take that to a stage and share it that way. And that's really how I ended up doing that.
Wow.
And like, for me to be able to speak, if you even just two years before I did that TED Talk, if you had told me that I would do that, I'd be like, absolutely not. I'm not public speaking in my plan, very much an introvert. Like, do not like being in the spotlight or anything like that. But at the same time, one thing that is really important, and I say this to my clients all the time, it's when you find that thing that you are so passionate about, and when you know that you have a message or you have something to give to the world, and even if it only impacts one person, that is a lot of times where that confidence can come from. I can overcome that fear and all of the stress that went with that whole TEDx process, because my focus was so much on, if this just helps one person, if this message that I'm so passionate about and I can deliver it with that kind of enthusiasm and it helps one person, it's worth it for me to take this journey. So that's what really has pushed me forward to have more visibility, even though like my personality is just to shy away and be in the background. But that's really the catalyst for my business, thinking about it like from a marketing perspective. When I have that focus, it really just helps me to keep going. It's like, even if this message gets to one person, that's enough for me to say, I'm going to put myself and like, how I feel about myself and conscious on the back burner, and just move forward with that one person in mind, knowing that it's going to help somebody.
Yeah, I love how you shared that. There was an interview with Mel Robbins at one point, and she shared that sometimes your vision doesn't come through the way you plan it, but the goal still stays the same. And I love how you broke it down. You went from a LinkedIn article, submitting it for publications to Forbes, to then being able to land on one of the TEDx stages. And I think that's such a phenomenal journey that didn't happen overnight, but your resilience, your commitment, your consistency, and most importantly, the focus on making an impact on one person's lives. I think sometimes we just get really overwhelmed with the very big picture of all the people that are going to see us and all the eyes are on us. So thank you for sharing that story, because I'm sure that a lot of people resonate with your personality, or I want to shy away. I never saw myself, speaking on a stage and I'm sure that it's had some valuable impact to your career and your journey. So what has happened since? Where are you now in your coaching business and all of that?
Yeah, that is such an interesting question, because, with business, and I don't have a business background at all, no sales, no marketing or anything. So basically, when I had that sense of peace around, okay, this is the direction I need to go in terms of the coaching, I was so excited. I had like these rose-colored glasses. I was like, oh, I'm so confident this is what I'm supposed to do. Surely it's not going to be that bad. Like, I know there's going to be challenges, but it's not going to be crazy. Oh, it's crazy. So like it's almost 9 years into the journey now. And it's still a roller coaster. And I think that's just the nature of business, right? When you start your own, you never know how things are going to go. And so I've experimented with a lot of things when it comes to getting a message out there and, different things like that. And so it was after that TED Talk that I started to really question. Like, I was so much in the background before that. I would do my writing and I would post it, and I felt comfortable not being on camera. And then I started to think, I'm like, okay, so if this resonates with people, and if I can do this, if I can put myself on that stage and be okay with that, what other ways can I get out there and help people and, share what I have to share and things like that. And so I started to do more video at that time, and I started to open up to do more speaking at that point as well, to not only help with the business, but also just for me to be more comfortable so that, I can connect with people in that way, in a different way than what I was doing before. So what I was doing at that time in my business, I started so even like right now, I do a lot of speaking engagements. I do a lot of interviews like this, podcast interviews. I still do a lot of writing. And of course, coaching is, primarily my focus for my business. So those are the different things that I've done in my business. And that journey of writing first and then taking the stage and all that has opened up so many other possibilities and opportunities for me in my business. But I really had to have that growth mindset, because not everything's going to work great. But I really had to go in saying, okay, I'm going to try something out and see if it resonates, if it fits, if it connects with people, if it's going to be helpful in some way, knowing that I might have to pivot. I might have to make some changes, and that's going to be. So that had to be my mindset going in, because I remember in the beginning, I was so afraid and so stressed out when it came to building my business. It was just overwhelming, because it was like that shiny object, right? I could do 100 different things, and it's like, oh my gosh, how do I know? But the more you go into that and you just step into it one step at a time and experiment with different things, and you're learning so much about yourself, along the way as well. You're learning what's going to align with you, and, the way you want to do things, and the way that's going to connect really well with your audience. And it's just all, for me, like every single time I take that step and I'm like, okay, I'm going to try something new, I get input from that, and then that input allows me to move forward, whether or not it actually works out. So that's really been the way I think about my business is, every day there's going to be something new that might come across, or a new idea that I have, or something like that. And it's all about knowing who I am and what I've learned along the way to help me to filter through and figure out, okay, is this the right next step for me? Is this worth going in that direction, or should I not do that and move on to something different? And of course, coming back to my faith, that has been part of that as well. I always just pray about it. And if I don't have a sense of peace about it, I won't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, you mentioned a couple of things in that conversation, but most importantly, what stood out for me was the growth mindset. And that is something that I always tackle in every coaching conversation, because that's where you start. If you don't have the right mindset, it doesn't matter what tools you use, what processes you have, it just won't work, because you've got to be open to it. But a growth mindset doesn't mean that you don't do things without fear. So can you share about a time that maybe you felt that fear inside, but you did it anyway?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm chuckling because this was my TEDx story. So before I took the stage, this is actually probably a minute or two before I took the stage. And so what they do is, behind the scenes, about 15 minutes before you go on, you can go into like the back room where they mic you up and they do all the tests and all of that, this audio tests. And then you basically just stand there and you wait for the cue to walk onto the stage. And there's somebody that, I didn't even realize this, but when I got in there and I got all mic'd up and all ready to go, I just started shaking. Like I was just like, oh my gosh, this is real. And I could hear the speaker that was before me standing on the stage delivering their speech. And I was like, I don't think I can do this. And I'm looking at the door, and literally like for a couple of seconds, I thought, I can just walk out this door. And there was a guy almost like standing down at the door. And we made eye contact for a second. And he must have picked up on how nervous I was, because he looked at me and he went, you're going to go that way. And so that was one of those moments. And I've had many of those moments where it's like, oh my gosh, this is so scary. I don't think I can do this. Like I've never experienced something like this before. I don't have a ton of experience doing it. It's brand new. I don't know if I have the ability to do it. And at that point in time, I just remember thinking, all of that hard work, like it was 6 months of preparation. And, I had people counting on me to go up there and deliver this message. And people knew that it was coming and they were excited about it. And I was like, no, I'm going to, again, with that growth mindset, switch my focus off me and how I'm feeling in the moment, and switch it to, if there's one person in that audience that's taking something away, then I've got to have the courage to get up and do something, and speak so that they can be helped in some way, even if it's the smallest way. And so that one moment, that's what helped me overcome that fear. It was like, God, you've prepared me for this moment, and I'm not going to let you down, and I'm not going to let even that one person in the audience, and even if nobody takes anything away, I was okay with that. I was like, I'm going to believe that there's one person sitting here, or one person that's going to listen to this after the fact, that's going to take something away. And if that's the case, I'm going to do it, even if I'm extremely scared.
Wow. I really love your story and I love your motto. You know, if there's only one person in the audience that takes one thing away, I've done my job. I've fulfilled my purpose. So I love that. Wow. Now, and what a hype, right? Right before the TEDx stage. I can't even imagine it. I've never been on a TEDx stage. And I've done in-person speaking engagements. As you know, the pandemic, things got kind of quiet and everything went virtual. So it was weird. And then as I started to come out again and doing some speaking in person, I was like, oh, this feels so good because I'm the type of person, and you can't see it now, once my audience starts to listen to the recording, I move my hands a lot and I'm a note taker. So I tend to kind of like be very animated, as they call it. And I love working the stage when I'm speaking in person. So I can't even imagine that rush that you felt right before being on such a powerful stage, but also thinking of it, not only looking at it that way, what one person that can take one thing away from your message, but most importantly, what it did to help you propel your career forward and the impact that it's had, throughout your coaching journey. So thank you for sharing that story. I absolutely love that.
Yeah. And there's actually one other thing I want to add to that,
Mm-hmm.
Jess.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is so relevant even to like building a business or doing something new and things like that, is this belief that you have prepared for this and you were there, like you're ready for it, right? Even if it feels scary, even if it feels like, even if you've never done it before, or you don't have any evidence to say that you're going to be successful. There's no guarantee in anything anyway, right? But you're ready for it. Like if this opportunity has presented itself to you and if you feel like it's an opportunity that's worth taking, even when you're afraid, that's another thing. Like in that moment of the TEDx talk, that's what I reminded myself. I have prepared for this. I am ready for this moment, no matter how scary it feels. So that's,
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to throw that in there as a
Wow.
reminder for entrepreneurs that are listening to this. When it feels scary and when it feels like, I don't know if I have this or I've never done this before, just know that everything that you've done up to that point has prepared you for that moment. And so
Yeah.
you are prepared, way more prepared than you even think, right? To be able to handle that. But it does take having that growth mindset as you step into the unknown, as you take
Right.
on, comes next. So I just want to add
Wow.
that.
Yeah. So good. So good. I love that. Now, Sharissa, tell me a little bit about your coaching clients. What is the biggest challenge that they come to you with, and how do you help them?
Sure. So there's a couple of different things. So what I've noticed as kind of almost like an underlying pattern or theme that tends to emerge out of our coaching session is that, and this is goes back to our basic like human need that we have to matter, right? To do work that's valuable, to be on purpose, to really feel fulfilled in your career. And so underpinning everything that I talk about, and there's a lot of different, aspects of my coaching, but underlying all of that, people just want to feel like what they have, to give, their contribution is valuable and it's helpful and it's helping, the people that they work with, it's helping their teams, it's helping the business, it's helping the company's mission, it's helping the world in general. They want to do work that truly matters. But also, of course, they don't want to do that at the expense of their lives either, right? So they want to have like good work-life balance. They want to make sure that they're maximizing their time. And a lot of the topics that I talk about with my leaders aligned with that is having impact, having visibility, and having influence. Those three topics tend to come up a lot as well. And there's a lot of things that are related to that. But that ties in with them feeling like, okay, I've got more to give. There's so much more that I want to do. Now, how do I get to that next step so that I can have even more impact, so I can do even more, so I can grow even more and, develop
Mm-hmm.
my own, so that I can then turn around and contribute in a bigger way. So I think that would be the underlying theme. If I could,
Mm-hmm.
put one thing, it's probably that. And we all have that desire, right? To be able
Mm-hmm.
to do things that matter in this world and to make a difference.
Yeah. And I love that you use the word maximize, because that is like one of the themes in my coaching business. I'm always talking about maximizing your business, maximizing your day, maximizing your time, right? And understanding what that looks like. And that is different to different people. So, what maximizing my day would look like is completely different to what it would look like for you. So if someone's listening to this podcast and hearing your story, and you wanted them to have one takeaway, what is the one message that you would share with that person?
Oh my goodness, that is a big question. Let's see. One message that I would share with people from what we talked about. I would say probably just know who you are really
Mm,
well, your values, know what's important to you. Like for me, my faith drives everything that I do. So that's a very, very high value for me. So know yourself well enough to know what you're passionate about, what you're interested in, what are your strengths, what are the things you love doing, what are you known for, what do people come to you for, and what do you get complimented on, or what have you been recognized for, things like that. Know yourself really, really well, because once you do that, whatever decision you make, if it aligns with that, then you're golden. Like you're on the right path. And nothing's going to be perfect, of course, but the more you know yourself and you're aligned with that and you have confidence in who God created you to be, when you function from that place, it's so much easier to do the things to make the best decisions for yourself, to have healthy boundaries, to know what it is that is needed to help you to move forward. That makes sense. So yeah, that's what I would say, is just go through that experience of self-discovery, the journey of self-discovery. At least start it. It's never ending, right? But at least spend time to get to know yourself well enough. Know, even just, from a practical standpoint, know what your body needs, right? So a lot of times we push ourselves, and I know as business owners, I'm sure your audience can probably relate to this. We push ourselves so hard because we want to be successful. We want to feel good about that we're growing, and we want to make a difference. That sometimes we do that at the sacrifice of our time, our health. Like there's so many things, right, that could be sacrificed. We are striving for something. So being aligned with what you need as an individual, what your body needs, how much rest do you need, how much downtime do you need away from work to get those creative juices flowing, to do the things that are important to you. That's something that I realized now that I'm, I guess, a bit older. I realized that for me, maximizing my business or maximizing my day is to create space. As weird as that sounds, it's creating space, because the more I can create space to kind of be more in the flow, or to be more creative, or to just let myself play, to let myself relax and all of that, my business tends to grow. I get those ideas that I need. I get the inspiration that I need. I'm more connected. If I only focus on my to-do list and, okay, I need to get to the next thing, and then if I just keep striving, it actually has the opposite effect. It burns me out, and it also takes away from the joy of what I'm actually trying to accomplish. And then I tend to get more into that mindset of like, oh, I've got to figure this out, and I've just got to do the next thing and the next thing. But the more I give myself space to breathe and trust that everything is unfolding as it's supposed to, and there's inspirational, like I'm going to be inspired when I give myself more space and more time to rest and recover, things like that. And of course, there's going to be periods in my business, and I actually schedule these out. So there's certain periods in my business where I know I'm not going to have a whole lot of that rest time or downtime, and that's okay, because I prepare myself for those periods, so that after that or before that, I'm doing what's needed for myself to keep me in the best possible shape to be able to do what I need to do. Because if I'm not taking care of myself, then everything suffers. My business suffers, my health suffers, my family relationships suffer. It doesn't do anyone any good. So for me, maximizing my time is being intentional about creating space.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is like all music to my ears, because I talk about this all the time. And just yesterday, I had a conversation where we were talking about taking a week off. And the best vacation that anyone can ever possibly have is, instead of taking 1 week off a year, it's taking multiple weekends to disconnect and recharge, and creating that space to really recover. Not only that, but like even events. Have you ever been to an event that the event is amazing and you're hyped and you're full of energy and you're ready for motivation, but then the next day you were scheduled either back to work or you booked yourself out, right? So you don't really give yourself the space to recover. So I love that you share that, because I think that's so important. And a lot of my audience, they're women and moms, and they experience guilt when it's time to create space for themselves, because they're so busy creating for everyone else in their lives but themselves. And if anyone's listening to this podcast right now, that would be the biggest takeaway that I would say. Create space for yourself to be able to do the things that you love, so that you can take the time to really do that self-discovery, and take some time to do a values assessment, so that you can see if the things that you're working on are aligned with your values, your mission, and your vision for your life. So love this conversation. Now, Sharissa, if someone in my audience wanted to connect with you and they wanted to work with you, is there a specific way that they should reach out to you? Do you have anything new coming up in the upcoming few months? What's going on in your world?
Yeah, well, thanks for asking. So there's a couple of ways to get in touch with me. One is my email address. So it's info@leadershipmasteryalliance.com. And then to find out more about the work that I do, you can go to leadershipmasteryalliance.com. That's my website, and there's all of the information on there. And then the other thing, since you touched on this, the TED Talk. So the TED Talk is actually on my website, and what I've done is I've created kind of like a cheat sheet or a talk document that you can download. So if that's something that you're interested in, and it doesn't just apply to the corporate space too. It's just basically this, I did a lot of research on like the science of happiness and looking at various different aspects of what creates happiness in any kind of workplace, even if you're working in your own business or if you're working in a corporate space. So if you want to download that little cheat sheet and watch the TED Talk, you can go to leadershipmasteryalliance.com/TEDx to do that.
Awesome.
And I've got a whole lot of cool things coming up in the new year as far from a coaching perspective as well. So I'd love to chat with anyone in the audience that might need like additional support in those areas.
Absolutely. I love that. And I will go ahead. Don't worry, you guys, if you're listening and you're driving, don't pull over. We will drop those links inside of your show notes and we'll be sharing some of that. So thank you so much for taking the time to be here today and sharing such a powerful message. I love every part of the conversation. I can't wait to put this out there and just make an impact. And as you said, I'll take that motto that you wholeheartedly believe in. And is that if there's one person in the audience that can take one thing away, then we've served our purpose and our mission in life with this episode. So thank you so much for being here, Sharissa.
Thank you, Jessica. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I also want to thank you for the work that you're doing, because this is important work. And I know as a fellow coach, how it's not easy, right, to be on this journey and how hard it is to do that. But I love your commitment and your dedication to what you're doing. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And yes, coaching is definitely a hard journey, but it is so rewarding in so many different ways because of the people that we get to make an impact in. I don't think the world has enough coaches, in my opinion. Look forward to continue changing lives with you. Thanks, Sharissa.
That wraps up another episode of Married to the Hustle. We hope you enjoyed today's show and found some inspiration and practical tips to apply to your own business journey.
We love hearing from you, our amazing listeners. If you have any stories, questions, or tips to share, connect with us on social media or send us an email. Your input makes this podcast even better.
And don't forget to subscribe to Married to the Hustle on your favorite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a review. It really helps us grow and reach more entrepreneurial couples like you.
Join us next week for more exciting stories, insightful interviews, and valuable advice. Until then, keep hustling, keep thriving, and keep loving what you do.
Thanks for tuning in and happy hustling.
Wanna hear you go.